Namaste.
Hello, I am the European and I make videos that matter to you. Thank you for watching. America is falling into decline. There is no stopping to it. Entire city districts in places like Los Angeles, Baltimore, Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans and Detroit are totally collapsing. Thousands upon thousands of homes are abandoned, looted and burned down to the ground. The people who are living in these cities are suffering. They are out of a job or they work paycheck to paycheck if they're lucky. And their children grow up in places that can only be described as ghettos or slums. But it's not their mistake. The American people are not to blame. Instead, the politicians and
Today we want to talk about Kenya's national strategic posture for the next 25 to 30 years. Recently, you saw that Kenya signed a trade deal with the UK, giving them tax-free or tariff-free imports into Kenya, that they don't have to pay any taxes for anything they sell into Kenya for the next 25 years. Now, let us look at that situation within the proper context of what is actually going on in the world. Right now, Jubilee signed that trade deal because they are operating from the old paradigm of white supremacy, whereby the Mzungu is above all and the Mzungu is also God. So they are still stuck in that paradigm. And many of you are still stuck in that paradigm. You know, that's why you give yourself a Mzungu name and you give your children a Mzungu name. And you honor them above everything else. So what is happening in the real world, not in the make-believe world that exists within your head, in the actual real world, things have changed and things keep on changing. There's a paradigm shift and we are in the transition period where we're moving from one paradigm into another paradigm. Now, in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, the Chinese economy will have far greater output than the American economy. In other words, the Chinese economy will become the largest in the world. And this is very significant because for the first time in 500 years, the Mzungu will not be on top. For the first time in 500 years, they'll be exceeded by someone else. And so we are in this phase where we're moving from one empire into another empire. And this transition phase is a very dangerous phase because anytime an empire is collapsing and another one is rising to take its place, there is usually conflict. Many times there's usually war. So we know there has to be a major war that will come. Because dying empires don't go down peacefully. Because many of them are still operating from the paradigm that they are on top of the world. You see, it hasn't hit them yet that they are not as powerful as they were 50 years ago. And so, because they haven't gone through the paradigm shift, they will operate as if they still have the power that they had, not understanding that power has left them. And so they'll make decisions that other people will resist, especially the new incoming empire. And this will spark a major conflict. And the dying empire will lose in that conflict. And once they lose that war, then it will hit them that the paradigm has changed. And after that war, the transition period will have ended. Now in history, we have some examples. And one of the most recent examples is the collapse of the European Empire. Because from 1890 to the 1960s, Western Europe had a global empire and they controlled many territories around the world. Now, in 1955 or 1956, the president of Egypt, Nasser, decided to take over the Suez Canal because he was like, this canal is making a lot of money and it is owned by England and France. He was like, why are they making money from our territory? So he wasn't willing to keep that national asset into the hands of the foreigners. So he took it over. And England and France were really offended because they were still operating in the paradigm of their global empire. They still thought that it was 1914, not understanding that it's 1955. So what they did, they attacked Egypt. They started moving troops to attack Egypt. And immediately they did that, the Russians immediately said that they will attack them. They said they will attack Paris and France. And the Americans said they will not defend them from the Russian attack. And Britain and France had to withdraw from Egypt. And their power was broken. That is the shock that they suffered, that they didn't have power to do whatever they wanted to do like they did in 1914. And as a result of that shock, both governments collapsed, both in England and in France. And the immediate result was that they decolonized. It just hit them that the empire was dead. It's over. They can't defend it. Because everyone in Africa saw what happened. They saw their humiliation. And that caused more and more Africans to become rebellious. And they knew they could not hold the empire. And so they decolonized. And the world changed from that point of view. They were no longer on top of the world. Now, we are approaching a similar experience that is happening within our lifetimes. That the United States is operating on the paradigm that it's 1990 and they are on top of the world. The Soviet Union is dead. They have the largest economy in the world, almost 10 times larger than any other economy. They have troops all over the world, and there is no global competition. So that's where their mind is until today. But things have changed. Now you have China, which has an equally large economy, equally large economic output, and even far more people, which means the economy will keep on expanding. So we know that over the next 5 to 10 years, they will be at parity with America in economic output. And then after that, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, they will exceed America. 30 years from now, they will exceed America even more. If America is at $14 trillion right now in economic output, then China within 15 years will be at 16 trillion and then 18 trillion and then maybe 25 trillion. Like they will far outpace America, because at the same time America will be declining because they have already plateaued and now they've entered into their decline phase, because all empires have, like, its phases of life. Now we know that America is declining slowly. You may not see it because these things take over a long time, and maybe one lifetime is not enough for you to see everything clearly. But it is obvious to anyone who observes these things that they've entered into their declining phase, and cracks are beginning to appear, and their population is not as big as China's population. So in any competition, the people who are more generally win. And so this is the situation that is facing us today. Now, England has been hiding behind America's skirts for a long time. They've been threatening people while hiding behind America. Manipulating poor African countries while hiding behind America. But what happens to England when America disappears? When they lose their global power? England will have the same influence as Bulgaria. So, given that America will be surpassed in 5 to 10 years, why would you make a trade deal with England for 25 years? That doesn't make any sense. They don't have anything that we need. Now, England is in a strategically hopeless situation, because in military science, we say that once you lose initiative on the battlefield, you've already lost the war. It's now a question of time before you get defeated. Right? So England is in that position. It has lost historical initiative. They are becoming more and more irrelevant. It is only African countries that keep England relevant by being part of the Commonwealth, in huge quotes. If all African countries walk away from the Commonwealth, England becomes Bulgaria. No one will care much about it or what happens there. Now, when you look at England, it's being taken over by India. The car that you love to drive, the Land Rover, the Range Rover, you may say, oh, this is a British car. No, it's not. That's an Indian car. The company is owned by Indians. And Indians appear to be taking over the UK. I mean, economically. More and more British, quote-unquote, companies are owned by the Indians. So over the next 40 years or 30 years or even less, India will probably take over the UK, more or less completely. So given that is the situation, doesn't it make more sense to sign a 25-year trade deal with India rather than England? So the decision that that Jubilee made, doesn't make sense. It shows that their strategic posture for Kenya is either non-existent or it's inexplicable. Because, well, maybe it's not inexplicable, because I think they're still operating with the paradigm of the Mzungu being on top of the world. They don't seem to appreciate that the days of the Western Empire are over. It's over. It's over for them. It's just a matter of time. But all the fundamental signs point to decline and collapse. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Kenya's time has come. Our time has come. Your time has come. A time to succeed and not fail. A time to grow wealth and not poverty. A time to go up and not down. It's time for you to stop walking and drive your car. Stop renting and buy yourself a house. It's your time to get blessed. Join the CCV movement, and together let us keep poverty and unemployment out of Kenya. Become a member today. Donate what you can. And remember that the CCV is the only political organization in Kenya that is squarely built upon Christian values, unlike the rest. We'll see you next time. Thank you.